Yes, welcome everyone to this first meeting of the licensing committee of the municipal year 2024. Before I start the meeting and I start doing the formalities, I want to thank our previous chair, Anthony Kelly, Councillor Kelly, who's been chair of licensing for several years, and I want to thank him and for the work he's done. This is my first meeting as a chair. I was elected chair of the licensing committee in May. So I'll be chairing for the rest of the year and probably after that. We have got some new members. So first I want to thank outgoing members who have left the licensing committee this year. And I want to welcome every member, particularly the new members, Councillor Charan Sharma, Councillor Kim Nagpal, Councillor Tariq Mahmood, and returning member, Councillor Ranjit Dheer. Welcome, Councillor Dheer, and other members. With that, we can start with the formalities, and I'm starting by taking the apologies for absence. I have received apology from Councillor John Bole, and Councillor Amarjit Jammu may be late. She sent me a message for lateness. Any other apologies? No? Thank you. I have no urgent...
Sorry, Chair, I believe Councillor Kelly is giving apologies as well.
Councillor Kelly, yes, thank you, Gareth, for reminding that. I have no urgent matters to discuss, so any declaration of interest? Has anyone got any declaration of interest to note? No? Thank you. Matters to be considered in private, I haven't got any. So we go to minutes of the previous meeting. Those who were present, minutes were circulated. Do you agree with the minutes? Thank you.
Agreed.
Agreed.
Thank you. Thank you. Any matters arising from those minutes? No? No. Okay, then we go straight on to the first item, first report, presentation from the economic regeneration. Andrea, are you going to present this report?
Yes, so I've got some.
But yeah. Okay, Andrea, we are online again. So
Okay,
if you
great.
can continue, please.
Thank you. So yeah, just following on from the last committee, we have developed the draft strategy. And so today I'm sharing with you a presentation providing information on the engagement that we carried out and what's coming out so far with the draft strategy. We will be undertaking a second round of consultation, which will be launching this week based on the document that we have produced. And the consultation on that will close at the end of August, I think the 22nd of August. And then after that, we'll be going to Cabinet and then bringing the full report to Licensing Committee in October. So that's a quick summary. So I'll just now go through the slides that I have prepared. So in this presentation, I'm going to present some of the key findings from our engagement, present some of the key vision and action plan and the next steps. So first of all, I think most people in sort of listening in on this will already be aware, but I will explain what the evening and nighttime economy is. It describes the economic activity that happens between 6 p.m. and 6 a.m. That isn't just leisure and culture, pubs, clubs and nightclubs. That also covers other essential services like health, social care and other activities that support the wider economy. So we have a lot of manufacturing that takes place during those hours, and other activity like supermarkets and convenience stores that open late. Sometimes the nighttime economy is understood that it's centred around alcohol, but it's not the case in Ealing. As I mentioned, it covers other employers, and including Ealing Hospital and Heathrow Airport. So these industries are really critical for the health, safety and well-being of residents. And yeah, we're conscious that some of these nighttime industries are often overlooked, which is why we're really keen to do this strategy to support those workers and businesses. So one of the reasons why we're doing this strategy, it also replaces the former nighttime strategy, which covered the period of 2019 to 22. It's also being used as an evidence base for Ealing's new licensing policy, which is also currently being worked on and due to be adopted in July next year. And also the London Plan states that all boroughs should prepare these strategies as well. So we're not the only local authority to be doing this. So yeah, I mentioned that this is to support existing workers and businesses most importantly, and we are taking a borough-wide approach and have made specific recommendations for each of the 7 towns. So this is a 5-year strategy covering the period of 2024 to 29. And as part of this, we have engaged with over 3,000 local people and businesses. And this has involved online surveys, face-to-face visits and pilot activities. The strategy itself will have an action plan, which we have drafted, and this will be co-delivered with partners to ensure that what comes out of this strategy is actioned. So this work does link to all 3 of the council's priorities. It supports businesses and co-workers with creation of new jobs. It ensures that residents can safely access jobs and also supports sustainable transport and encourages businesses to minimise their environmental impact after 6 p.m. So the key findings, so the research that we carried out, we found that 26.5% of all local spend happens between 6 p.m. and 6 a.m, which is a substantial amount and is over the London average. We know that 17% of our residents work in the evening and the nighttime economy, and this has stayed quite consistent over the past decade. Over 40% of Ealing's nighttime industries support the wider social and economic activities, which include manufacturing, wholesalers and logistics. And currently Ealing is home to 1,457 licensed venues. The majority of these are based in central Ealing, Ealing town, but the majority are also, there is quite a high portion that are small shops. So some of the key challenges that we're looking to we're aware of and that we need to bear in mind and look to try to address include the rising costs of doing business. We know that there are labour shortages. We know that night workers are likely to be paid less than the living wage. That Ealing currently does need more of an inclusive and diverse offer after 6 p.m. and that there are considerable concerns around safety and antisocial behaviour. So we know that activity after 6 p.m. must be robustly managed to minimise nuisance, litter and other issues. So vision and action plan. The vision is overall borough vision is for Ealing to be a more prosperous and inclusive place to live, work, visit and run a business after 6 p.m. Each of Ealing's 7 towns will have a unique evening and nighttime offer that meets the local need. As part of the work that's been done to look at the 20-minute neighbourhoods, residents will be able to access jobs, services and amenities after 6 p.m. within the 20-minute round trip from their homes by walking or cycling. So that includes restaurants, community spaces and out-of-hours public services. We want to make sure residents are supportive to access new and existing good jobs, and that night workers have improved access to facilities to improve their health and well-being. We also want to make sure that venues, public spaces and transport across the borough are safe and accessible after 6 p.m. That Ealing will have more connected communities through increased opportunities for communities to come together after 6 p.m. and that there'll be a strong stewardship of activity after 6 p.m. and local people and businesses feel ownership of that. So in the draft strategy, we have created individual town visions, and this is obviously based on what's come out of the engagement that we've carried out. And this is an example. You'll be able to look at in detail each of those visions, but I've got 2 examples here, the Ealing and Northolt. So for Ealing, the vision is for Ealing to remain the primary cluster for services and amenities after 6 p.m. in the borough and the wider region. Reason for that is that it is a metropolitan town centre with substantial transport nodes and a larger sort of floor space in order to support those services. It will remain a destination for residents and visitors from across the capital and capitalise on strong evening and nighttime public transport connectivity. We want new culture, community and leisure uses to complement the existing retail, food and beverage offer, building on the success of what's already in Ealing, including Pitshanger Manor Thursday lates. We'll work with landowners to look at the office corridor to create a more diverse and inclusive offer after 6 p.m, including activities that don't involve alcohol. We will look at holistic public realm improvements, particularly in West Ealing, and ensure that the town centre is safe, inclusive and accessible to all. We'll work with existing bids, community, local community and businesses, including the Ealing High Streets Task Force, to gain a nighttime enterprise zone for the town centre, which will further promote and be a catalyst for community-led change. As part of Ealing Town more widely, Pitshanger Lane, South Ealing and Northfields will also continue to provide a local offer after 6 p.m. And you can see on the slide here some quotes that have come out of our consultation. So we have had feedback that people would like to have more quality and healthy food offer after 6 p.m, that coffee shops can open later, and that there are more artistic and creative style venues to bring a more diverse crowd into Ealing. So this is the vision, the draft vision for Ealing. I'll now go on to just talk through Northolt. So Northolt, this is an example of a local area town vision. So Northolt Town will provide local services, amenities and jobs after 6 p.m. It will serve the diverse needs of residents and support improved community cohesion of all ages. We'll work with the local business, and community to encourage a more diverse offer, particularly around Northolt Station and White Hart Roundabout, in terms of food and beverage. The existing night worker footfall linked to Heathrow will be supported through improved access to facilities and food options. We'll also look at holistic public realm improvements along Ealing, Church and Mandeville roads and ensure that the area is safe, inclusive and accessible to all. So some of the feedback that we had from Northolt also included having a good mix of restaurants. They'd like to have more available locally rather than needing to travel outside of Northolt, and that there are more social venues and activities for older teenagers aged between 16 and 18, because there is a lack of that at the moment. So that's sort of examples of the town visions. The action plan is also in the draft document, which you would all be able to look at in detail once it's published. But the action plan examples here include working with Ealing's London Living Wage Action Group to improve pay conditions for evening and nighttime workers, ensuring that Learn Ealing and Work Ealing supports careers in the evening and nighttime industries, that work with communities and businesses enable evening markets and community activities to happen, that we collaborate with partners to deliver a communications campaign to showcase what's already on offer in Ealing, because there is already a lot, particularly in central Ealing, to introduce a night test to ensure major public realm schemes positively impact Ealing's economy, to increase business participation in safety schemes, including charters and training, and embed the need to access jobs, services and amenities after 6 p.m. into a 20-minute neighbourhood manual to guide future developments. So there's some of the examples that are in our action plan. So the next steps, as I mentioned at the beginning, we are consulting on this draft strategy now between now and the 22nd of August. We'll then be taking the strategy once we have incorporated the feedback that we've got from that consultation. We'll then revise the strategy and take that to Cabinet for endorsement in September, and then bring it to the Licensing Committee in October. So that's the end of my presentation. Does anyone have any questions?
Thank you, Andrea.
Thanks.
Questions, colleagues? Any question? Yes, Julian. Your microphone is on.
Yeah, thanks, Mooney. Thank you very much. Yes, thank you, Andrea. Thank you very much for that summarising that, because there's a lot of detail there, and you've got the whole thing across very well. I've just got a couple of questions about that. You mentioned that all local authorities are doing this, and it's sort of supervised and coordinated by the Mayor of London, I guess, is it? Or is that correct?
Yes, so we do get support from the Mayor of London. Yes. Okay.
I mean, is everyone doing it the same way? Because what's interesting, obviously, would be for businesses, you know, to see how plans coincide, and how, because obviously what we want to foment is cross-border, you know, traffic as well. So we want, basically, I mean, put it crudely, we want people who live in Hayes to come and eat in Southall. You know, that's the kind of thing we want. The other thing I wanted to ask you, which it's gone completely out of my mind now. I'm so sorry. It'll come back to me.
Oh, well, you can come back.
I just flown out of my brain, but it was a very important question. I'll come back in a second. Sorry about that. Okay. That first one about how all the other authorities are doing it, and whether we're involved with that as well.
Yeah, I guess each local authority will have their kind of individual budgets and staffing resources to be able to deliver. I know that there's other local authorities that have had a larger budget, so they've and more time, so they spent more time developing their strategy. We don't feel that we've compromised ours in any way by you know, doing this within a smaller budget and time frame. But yeah, we're very much following guidance that's been produced, and set by the GLA. So we have followed that guidance to ensure that we are making this the best possible strategy as we can.
And if I may, the key question is sort of what can the licensing regime in Ealing do to help this strategy? And that's not a one-word answer, but that's the big question for me.
Okay, well, I think this is I suppose, first step into reviewing and looking at how licensing policy can help kind of deliver what's coming out of this nighttime strategy. There, I think we've not wanted to have any sort of, I suppose, specific ideas for steering it. Is very much guided by what's come out of the consultation, and the consultation is telling us that there is, particularly in Ealing Broadway, a desire for more activity, particularly with comedy and nightclubs. But then also we know that there's been a lot of other comments around activity that doesn't revolve around alcohol, and the specific needs to cater for other nighttime workers. So I think what's really sort of, I suppose, coming out so far is that there's two things. One is there seems to be a desire for less takeaways. So that might come out, something that we might to look at revising our licensing policy around, but that very much needs to be looked at separately. And I know that Isabella and her team will be conducting consultation based on some of the things that are coming out from this work, and also potentially later licenses for night refreshments, like coffee shops opening later. So there are two sort of key things that are supposed to coming out that I know Isabella's team will be looking at in due course.
Yeah, Andrea, actually, I think I need to clarify. I think what Julian is trying to ask is, Julian, you can correct me if this is not the case. Yes, you did mention, Andrea, that nighttime economy is not just about alcohol. But having said that, when we are encouraging other establishments to come out, enjoy the night, work at night, food and drink and work goes hand in hand. We cannot separate food and drinks from the work. When people are out, they will need food and drink. So the question we are asking is, and I'm sure Julian is asking the same question, that as a licensing committee, as a hearing panel who is in charge of the licensing, are we encouraging establishments, food establishments, to stay open till late?
Yes, yeah, we are encouraging that, but with less emphasis on takeaways.
I think no one can come in as well.
Is music in there as well? I mean, is there demand for more late night music provision? Because obviously that's a licensable activity after a certain time, has to be quite carefully controlled. So
I suppose there has been a lot of feedback to say that they would like more activity, including comedy, not necessarily dance venues. I think it's a bit more kind of live music and comedy, and I think, yeah, that's the overall theme that's coming through.
So that's plays, isn't it? That's late night plays, and that's very much a licensable activity as well. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thanks.
Joe, you wanted to come in? You did raise hand.
Yeah, I just wanted to add. I mean, one of the things from the great piece of work that Andrea has done is that 3,000 people that have been surveyed, because in certain respects, people like myself and Isabella, who focus on the regulatory side of things, we can be slightly one-dimensional. So as a committee, both in terms of the licensing committee that will be approving the licensing policy over the next 9 months, but also as licensing subcommittee members making decisions on applications, it's important that you hear from voices of people that want more more offer later in the evening, and because Isabella will be doing things like data analysis of alcohol related crime or alcohol related ambulance service visits, but one of the committee's main roles, if I may say, is to effectively adjudicate on those two adversarial factors of the impacts on local residents, whether that's public nuisance, crime and disorder, etc., and also the health of the borough from an economic perspective. So some of the things that Andrea has written into the strategy, it's wider than just the licensing policy. So there's elements in there that align with our health and well-being strategy about people being able to get out, mix with other people, sports events later on, as well as all of the kind of safety stuff around violence against women and girls and safe transport hubs. So in terms of the licensing policy, I think it is interesting things that are coming out about we would like this, not necessarily including alcohol. So as Councillor Gallant said, it's entertainment that isn't just amplified music in a normal vertical drinking establishment setting. We could potentially look at things in our licensing policy that maybe tease out certain parts of regulated entertainment as something we would promote. But again, I know Isabella and Andrea are working closely, but I think that's one of the most significant bits of value to the committee that this strategy will provide, is an evidence base to manage that conflict. I thought that'd be helpful.
Thank you. Councillor Anand. Praveen.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Andrea. Thank you, Andrea, for the presentation. Just a very clarification question here. As a committee member, are we also encouraging late hours for off licenses? Is that when we're promoting, if there is people going to be working late, and they want to go home and maybe relax, have a glass of wine and take it home? So are we promoting late night openings of off licenses? Is that a priority, like a 24 hours? How are we taking that policy? Thank you.
So that isn't something that's come through from our consultation and in our strategy. So we wouldn't be encouraging that.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Baklini. Rima.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Andrea, for the lovely presentation and all the officers' efforts. I just wanted to ask about if the new strategy would impact on premises falling within the special policy areas.
So we haven't distinguished within our towns. We've taken a town approach. We haven't taken a strategic policy area approach, so that I think that would be looked at in more detail the next stage of looking at the policy and more revising the policies.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Councillor Dev.
Yeah, Chair, thank you.
Ranjit,
first of all, thank you to Andrea for the presentation, and I think Joe's comments are also very significant. What I want to ask, Chair, is this, that of course, nighttime economy is not simply about alcohol related establishments. We all accept that. But as you know, Chair, from your experience and the experience of all members of the committee, that we have very frequently applications for extension of hours in terms of alcohol consumption, both from off licenses and on license establishments. We really need guidance, and I think what Joe and Andrea have been saying, I would be interested in really having some research that what is the impact of late night alcohol licenses in terms of antisocial behavior, in terms of impact on women and girls and their safety, particularly in residential areas. If you have an establishment away from residential area, I think there's less concern. But if you have establishment right within residential areas, then I think we really need guidance, and we need a good evidential base as members on licensing panels to really deliberate on those applications, because these applications are really coming in all the time. So I think I would welcome the proposed consultation and this study, and I will be very interested in knowing the results of it. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, Joe, you want to take that?
Yes, Councillor Ahmed, thank you. Just to say that I think Isabella's next item, where we talk about the steps for the licensing policy, I think they will address all of Councillor Deer's queries, because effectively that is the work that Isabella and her team will be carrying out, is that research, that evidential analysis, and there will be a number of bites of the cherry that this committee have at the licensing policy to make amendments, ask for further information, etc. So yeah, this is actually very fortuitous that Andrea will be doing a 5-year Ealing's economy after 6 p.m. policy, because that will go in lockstep with the licensing policy. So in 2020, my maths isn't good enough, 2028 or 29, Regen colleagues and economic development colleagues will be producing a new strategy just at the start of us renewing the licensing policy. So I think this will work well.
Thank you. Councillor Sharma, you've got a question.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Andrea. Your presentation was both informative and helpful. I've just really got like general question, which is around, if you could just say a few things about young people, youth, and affordability in terms of supporting and what is being done and what, you know, how we can develop that. And the other thing was some towns need more development, if you like, than others because there's less happening there. So what kind of things can you say about that in terms of developing the quiet areas that need more input? Thank you.
Sure. So with regards to young people, yes, that has come through in terms of the engagement where it's recognised there isn't so much activity there for young people after 6 p.m. On offer. So we will be, as part of our strategy, recognising that and looking to encourage, as mentioned, a greater, more diverse offer in terms of not just for young people, but actually people of all ages, where there are activities that are creative and don't revolve around alcohol. And yes, there is an issue around affordability. We don't have, unfortunately, we don't have available funding with this to be able to offer subsidised activities and services, but we will be looking to encourage more activities that are affordable. So through this, we'll be promoting that. With regards to the towns, so yes, it's recognised that each town is different and has different existing offer, but also the setting in each area is quite different. And as mentioned earlier, some areas are more residential, so we wouldn't be looking to encourage an enhanced nighttime offer like we would do in Ealing Broadway or West Ealing. And you'll see in the strategy there are visions tailored for each area, and we very much encourage you to look at those. And if you have any kind of comments or feedback on the visions for each town, we'd really be grateful for your feedback.
Thank you. Councillor Shaw.
Yeah, thanks, Chair, and thanks, Andrea. I was just wondering, I noticed in your presentation the night test you mentioned in terms of public realm. and developments. And I was just wondering if you could just give us a bit more detail on that, please, you know, and what sort of test that would be. I am assuming, without wanting to put words in your mouth, that would be linked to sort of, you know, public transport and accessibility and that sort of thing. But if you could just let us know a bit more about that, please.
Sure. So the GLA have actually come up with this term and model, and involves undertaking visits at night time in each area, testing, as you just mentioned, accessibility, transport, and the public realm. Like, is the lighting sufficient? But it's also around applying I suppose a checklist to projects, any sort of new projects or policies that are implemented or proposed to be implemented in an area. Will make sure that there is a checklist that relates to, you know, the nighttime economy and what impact the project will have on the nighttime economy, and will what else can be done as part of that project to help you know, boost and enhance the nighttime economy offer and needs. So yeah, it's an exercise and I suppose a new mechanism built in that will ensure that new projects and services are in line with the nighttime economy strategy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Mohammed, you raised hand. Have you taken it down, or you still want to ask question?
Yes, I have. Andrea have actually touched on and answered this. This was about finding the balance on making sure residential areas are not being impacted or affected. Although it's a good strategy and it's step in the right direction, but there has to be a balance and not to create a problem for those who like to have a quiet life in the evenings and not to be disturbed. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Dheer, is that a legacy hand, or you have another question?
No, sorry, it is a legacy hand. She had no more questions, no.
Thank you. Thank you, Andrea. There's no more questions. So thanks for your presentation. It's been wonderful.
Thank you.
Very informative. Thank you. Moving on to the next item, and that is licensing report, policy review. Isabella.
Thank you, Councillor Ahmed, and good evening, everyone. So just to introduce myself, my name is Isabella Gregory, and I'm a food safety and licensing manager. So I have direct oversight of the work of our licensing processing and licensing compliance teams. I have two reports for you today, both are for your information only at this stage. And I'll start with a short update regarding our licensing hearings and enforcement, which is our usual item that we discuss. And the report I have provided to you covers the period of time between 1st of February and 1st of June. And as you can see in Appendix 1 and 2 of the report, we have had 13 hearings in that period of time, which is actually slightly more usual, slightly more than we would normally have at that period of time. 7 of those hearings were for new premises license applications. We had 2 variations, 3 reviews of premises licenses, and also 1 decision on temporary event notice. And as you would see, there was a variety of decisions made, which obviously is a good indicator that the committee is treating each case on an individual basis. In regards to the work of our licensing compliance officers, we are still inspecting our MSCs, so massage and special treatment premises. We have about 200 of those premises in the borough, and at this stage we think that there is about 10% of those premises that haven't applied for the license or haven't renewed it. So our next step, therefore, and the priority for the next couple of months is therefore to kind of move on to enforcement and make sure that every premises operates with a license. We have also conducted some late night visits, and out of the 16 premises that we visited, we have found issues in only 3 of them, which is reassuring. Two are fully compliant. We've got no further issues, but there are currently legal proceedings for one of those businesses. And that's because despite kind of previous warnings, they were found operating outside of the licensed hours. And just very quickly in the report, I have provided you with the new kind of with a link to our new search tool that we've developed to make searching for premises licenses easier, which is some of the kind of comments that in the past have been raised. So I would encourage you to kind of have a look at that link, but essentially as soon as you click on it, that takes you immediately to a web page, which you can then kind of enlarge and filter it, and you can see all of the premises licenses open to consultation immediately, which is a significant improvement on before, where you actually had to search for that information. Moving on to our second report, which concerns the review of our licensing policy, which is obviously a key policy for this committee. Just to kind of remind everyone that we need to make sure that that policy is in place by the end of July 2025, which again, it sounds like a long time, but it's not. It's only a year and we have a lot to do at the same time. We are also reviewing our special policy areas, which in itself is actually quite a big task. And I think that's where the committee will have a few questions as we kind of progress with that. We are very much in the kind of initial stages of this review, and in some of the appendixes, it's Appendix 2 of the report, you can see the kind of anticipated delivery of this project and what you can expect to see at certain times. So we're hoping that by October, which is when the next licensing committee is scheduled for, we'll be able to provide you with a kind of very first draft of the policy. And then we hope that if you're happy with it, we'll be able to consult with the members of the public and our responsible authorities towards the end of this year. This would hopefully allow us to kind of then have another go at the policy and present you with a second draft around February time. And if needed, kind of make any final amendments before the policy is to be adopted by the full council before the end of July, because we can't go any further than that. Within Appendix 3 and 4, I've also provided you with an overview of some of the changes that we'll be incorporating to ensure that our policy is up to date. And again, this is very much a first take on the policy, and we would really like to hear from you, your views, and what you would find helpful for the new policy to include. Some of those changes, especially those relating to cumulative impact areas, so our special policy areas, will obviously be very heavily dependent on the ongoing review. So we're looking obviously into things such as crime and antisocial behaviour data that Councillor Deer actually specifically inquired about. So we need to look at all of that information and kind of many other indicators and kind of come up with a kind of summary of our findings. That research is nearly completed, and we'll be sharing the kind of the key findings with the committee at the October meeting, as well, with our recommendation as to what we would do or what we propose we do with our special policy areas. So obviously we've got various kind of options available to us. We can keep those areas as they are, we can extend them, amend them, or just decide no longer to have any in place. And again, this is too early for us to kind of even give you an indication of where we're going, as we need to really review a huge amount of kind of intel and research, and all of that will be shared with you. So if that's okay, I'll hand you back to our new chair, and then if you have any observations or kind of any questions, then myself or Joe can answer those.
Thank you. Colleagues, any questions? It doesn't seem like there is a question apart from Councillor Deer. Yes, Councillor Deer. If you can switch on your microphone, Councillor Deer.
Yeah, sorry, apologize, Chair.
No
Yeah,
worries.
I'm going to carry on from where I left a few minutes ago when Joe and Andrea made their presentations. And that is to ask, you see, as I said, that at the licensing committee panels, we have a large number of applications about extension 2 hours for off licenses and for club premises. I think I have not seen any problem with regard to non-alcoholic issues in the borough in terms of late night economy. But there are problems in terms of perception about the issue of licenses for the premises that sell alcohol. I mean, I have no problem personally with people who want to drink at late hours in pubs and clubs. And in fact, I think that the British pub is a great institution socially, which enables people to drink socially and responsibly with families. And then good luck to them. And I, once in a while, I do go to a pub and enjoy a pint of London Pride. But I think the issue in terms of principle is that how do we balance the rights of people to enjoy a late night drink in a club or in a similar establishment, and the rights of residents, particularly if the premises are situated in a residential area. And this is where, Chair, we need some guidance, evidence-based guidance. And I think the latest presentation we had doesn't really go into that question. And if I could say that a large majority of licensing applications are related to the sale of alcohol at off licenses, and also a number of them related to alcohol consumption in clubs, private clubs. We really need guidance. And as I said earlier on, we also have policies in terms of safety of women and girls. We also have policies in terms of antisocial behavior. And we really need guidance as members of the licensing committee when we go on panels that what should we look for? I mean, I know that we have got those 5 licensing objectives, but that they are very general. I think in terms of evidential base, what is the research our officers have conducted, what that research tells us in terms of those issues that I've highlighted, Chair. And I think if we do have that kind of evidential base, it will help us as members of the licensing panels when those applications come before us. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Andrea, you want to respond to that?
Councillor Ahmed, I can respond. I think, thank you, Councillor Dear. I think you've asked a really good question. How do we balance, obviously, licensing premises and then kind of not adding to antisocial behaviour issues or kind of street drinking issues, etc. And just to kind of provide a bit of a background, the reason why the committee is seeing more, is having more hearings regarding the off licenses, because these are the premises that normally the police and our licensing officers object to, because of known street drinking issues. So there'll be, hundreds of our licenses that the committee will not see for pubs or clubs, etc., where that isn't a concern. So that's why perhaps the committee is kind of just seeing those, because we know that historically there are hotspots in the borough where street drinking is an issue. And again, I've kind of highlighted that we're doing a lot of research into crime and antisocial behaviour, and there's a kind of huge amount of data that we are collecting to see whether this is very much still the case. And I do think it's probably still kind of the case in certain areas. When we have that research, then that's when some of that research then will be presented to you, and it will be put into evidential basis, as Councillor Dear said, in the form of special policy areas, which we already have those in specific areas, and I suspect that we will be keeping them because of that. But it's the kind of the evidential base that is part of our current policy, was done about 5-6 years ago, so obviously it's quite old. We need to look at it again, and then when that detail is available to us, you'll be seeing it not only in the policy, but also very likely in the kind of objections of representations by our licensing officers and the police, etc.
Thank you. Councillor Grant. Julian?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, thank you very much. I'm off mute now. Yes, thank you very much, Isabella. Actually, towards the end there, I think you said we might decide to not have any special policy areas at all. Is that actually an option that's open to us? And I only ask that question because, I mean, we often, there's a special policy area, but it's stated it shouldn't be the only criteria. I mean, sometimes you're overriding that because you think that you know the application is okay. So a little bit more on that, the fact that we might even take the ultimate step and not have any of those at all.
So the norm.
Andrea, before you come in, Julian, I think the special policy area is a tool for us if we want to stop proliferation. Yeah. So it's more to benefit us as elected members.
Yes.
To protect some areas if we get complaints from the residents. I think it goes in our benefit rather than going in the benefit of the.
I'm asking a bit objectively there, Munia, just to see you know where we might go with it, or whether that special policy thing might be tightened up or modified or refined and so on. You know how to improve it, or whether we should just use our own judgment. I mean, I'm playing with devil's advocate. Sorry about that. Yeah.
Over to you, Andrea, Isabella.
Councillor Gallant, I think the stance is that if we do nothing, then we would not have special policy areas, because we have historically had them, and we still know that there is street drinking issues, especially, you know, in specific spots. That's where we are still kind of undergoing quite a big. We're doing a lot of research into it. So I do think probably that the street drinking issues, because I know it's still an issue, we will be kind of looking at retaining some of the special policy areas. But we might amend them. So at the moment, they're very much kind of generic. We could make them quite specific. We could change the areas where we apply them to. We could change the type of the premises, the hours, and, you know, it kind of go into, we can kind of amend it the way that we suit. And that's when we need the feedback from the councillors with kind of how would that policy assist you with, and I wouldn't say it's to stop the premises, it's to kind of help us prevent some of the issues that we're seeing and kind of manage them better. And it's not that we are stopping premises from opening, or what we're doing is we're just saying is you need to be a good operator in those areas to be able to run the premises, and we're kind of highlighting the issues that we're seeing to the prospective license holders so they can put, you know, things in place not to add to that issue. So it's very much in October you will see a lot of it. All of the data that we'll be seeing is you'll be seeing kind of a summary of it where you can kind of drill yourself down into what we're proposing and why we're proposing. But the benchmark for us to keep the special policy areas is quite high. We need to justify it. So that's everything that we're talking about. The detail needs to be there. And if it's not there, then ultimately, you know, if we find that there isn't any issues with, you know, London ambulance calls associated with alcohol in any of the areas in the borough, then we wouldn't be, you know, perhaps suggesting that we keep them. So it's very much a waiting game at the moment and just waiting to see what comes through our way. And I think Joe may want to add a bit to it.
Joe, you want to contribute?
Yeah, I'll just be quick because Isabella will reprimand me from speculating too much, because she's absolutely right. We do need to get the evidence base to decide what we do. Well, when we say what we do, we really mean what options we will put to you as the committee to say this is what the evidence has shown. You know, and one of the good things that Isabella's doing with that data is trying to get it a lot more striated, so we can see the different activities, different times, and that kind of thing, because the special policy areas as they currently are quite a bit of a blunt tool. So Councillor Dear mentioned that, you know, you see a lot of off licenses come to committee rather than other kind of usage types, and Isabella's absolutely right. The committee only see applications that receive a valid representation, which from either a responsible authority or from members of the public. So very similar to other kind of permitting regimes, if an application is good and the premises is good and the local community have no issues with it, and none of the responsible authorities, the police or our licensing officers, etc., have an issue with it, it gets granted, you know, automatically at the end of the consultation period. So good applications will go through. And the final thing I'll say is the licensing policy is effectively a blueprint for the committee to make decisions and be secure in the robustness of that decision. So if, say, the the committee, a subcommittee, make a decision on an application and the applicant decides to appeal it, the magistrates will effectively rerun that decision-making process, and they will use the licensing policy as the foundation upon which to make their decision. So when obviously none of the officers other than Democratic Services and Alison from Legal or Hattie sit in when you deliberate, but when you deliberate, your advice will be, what does the policy say? Ensure that your decision making aligns with the policy. So we are speculating too much, because we will provide to you as the committee the evidence base that we've gathered, the data that we've gathered, bearing in mind the questions that the committee members have asked over the past 6 to 12 months, where we've talked about the licensing policy, hoping to address that and giving you as a committee something which you can say, these are the kind of options that we want to go for. And what we're trying to do is do an offer that is a little bit more nuanced, to take what is the difference between for example, alcohol on sales. Maybe we go to say, let's have a condition saying alcohol can only be sold with a table meal, and that changes the kind of context of that premises from the standard vertical drinking establishment that happens to sell crisps at the end of the bar. It changes a lot of things. How could we get that across in the policy? But now I'm making your policy for you, and that's not what we'll do. We'll talk about it in October.
Thank you. Councillor Dheer, you want to come back?
Yeah, I'm sorry, Chair, to press your point, but I'm grateful that you've given me the opportunity again. What I want to say is that, Isabel's and Joe's observations are very helpful, as the general licensing policy and the licensing objectives. But as I said before, there are occasions when we have to balance the interests of the businesses, and I have nothing against the businesses wanting to extend their hours of alcohol sale, because after all, businesses must make a good living. Similarly, in terms of clubs. But I think in terms of balancing the needs of businesses and people who want to drink late or buy alcohol late, and the needs of residents who have a good night's rest and sleep without antisocial behavior, that's a very difficult tightrope to walk. This is why I want to suggest, Chair, that when Isabel and Joe and other officers have those consultations and research projects, what we want to know, probably broken down by 7 towns of our borough, that what is it like in Southall or Perivale or Ealing Central or in Acton to have those applications in terms of a kind of background to the issues that are raised by the licensing at the licensing panel. So that will be helpful, because I think we really need to go beyond the generality of the picture painted by the policy and the licensing objectives. And as Joe said, a little more nuanced kind of guidance to the members of the panel. But this is what the background in Perivale and Hanwell is. And I think then members of the panel can keep that background in their minds when they deliberate on those applications. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Isabella, you have noted, I think there's you want to add anything, or you're okay?
I think the only thing I would say is that obviously it's the research that we undertaken now is a snapshot of the past year, really, that we're looking at. That picture will be changing throughout the life of the policy. And I think what Councillor Dheer is asking for is the kind of nuanced guidance that will be changing as obviously Ealing changes, and that should really come from the kind of the police or kind of anyone that objects, or our licensing officers, and also through the licensing committee hearing meetings. So whenever we have those meetings, we kind of update you on some of the issues that we are kind of seeing, etc. So I think it's just important to note that the policy will provide the kind of the general guidance but it can be so specific as to kind of dictate anything, because that policy will last for 5 years. That nuance and that specific detail, that should be coming from people that are kind of objecting to the premises and that you're hearing during your hearings. And I think you should be asking those questions of the police, of our licensing officers during the hearing, so you can make informed decisions.
Thank you. Joe, you want to
just quickly, I think one of the other things to kind of allay Councillor Deer's concerns is in the appendix, I think it's Appendix 4, Isabella's kind of laid out a proposal about the way that the new policy would be structured in terms of content, and what we're looking to do is to offer a bit of a, if you like, a menu for prospective applicants on how they will address certain things. So we will talk about, for example, in terms of violence against women and girls, there's the Ask Angela scheme, which is if a female feels unsafe, they can go to someone at the bar who's received training and say, I'd like to ask for Angela, and that member of staff will make sure that they get into a taxi safely. And we will mention that in the policy. And so if committee members have concerns that maybe the applicant hasn't considered that because it's within our policy, they could ask the applicant, why have you not accepted a condition on your license to say you will ensure every member of staff is trained within the first 3 months of working? Ask Angela, you will display posters in the toilets, etc. And so we will have a much more up-to-date menu of potential offerings for conditions that the committee can rely on, and also responsible authorities like the police could say, we've asked this applicant to accept some of the conditions put forward in the policy, such as, I don't know, a spiking policy, an anti-spiking policy. Ask Angela, they declined to do it, hence we've objected to the license. And then the committee can say, look, our policy, based on this evidence, based on aligning with our violence against women and girls policy, promotes that. Why have you not done it? And then it gives the committee a toolbox to impose conditions where they have concerns about possible negative impacts on crime and disorder. So I think I'm hopeful, Councillor Deer, that some of your concerns will be dealt with when we get to the stage, hope in October, when we produce a draft policy that will give a bit more of a menu going forward. And also potentially, Councillor Ahmed, we can look at maybe producing this as a topic around future licensing committee training as well, that kind of thing, just to assist.
Yeah, I think whether we do it before or after, once you bring the renewed policy, we will need a training and update the members. But I think Councillor Deer has put his point across, and you have fully understood. So this can be looked at in details. Councillor Anand, you have something to say? Praveen?
Yes. Oh, thank you, Chair. No, just what Joe has said, it's really very encouraging, because I would actually, so are we, I just want to clarify here that we are in our rights as committee members to put request a condition of Ask Angela. I mean, that's really, really helpful to understand that we are in that position to put those conditions. Or is it just, can we get challenged by the lawyers to say that look, that's not in your policy statement, so you really are going beyond your request? How do we balance that? But I really I think I've taken a lot from this, so I'm really grateful, Joe. Thank you.
Alison, you want to answer that, Alison?
I can come in. So, Councillor, I think the new policy will state expectations, and I put it like that: expectations that because of some issues that we're seeing in the borough, we will expect the applicants that that proposing to open a new nightclub, let's say, or a club, to voluntarily add those conditions to their licenses. And if they don't, then I expect that the police or our licensing officers would be objecting based on the fact that they haven't followed our policy, and they'll be very much presenting it to you during the hearings, and they'll be saying to you why do they believe that those conditions should be added, rather than you kind of having to do that by yourself, really.
Alison Luff, you
Yeah.
want to contribute?
Yeah,
Just following on from what Isabella said. I mean, obviously, conditions have to be appropriate. That's the test. It's not that high a test. So for somewhere like a nightclub, for instance, then you would expect to see things like that. And I think it would be very hard for an applicant to argue that that is not an appropriate condition. Clearly, you're not going to be looking at that for maybe for a takeaway. It's it's not going to be appropriate. So that is your test, and you do have quite a high level of discretion in imposing conditions, provided that they are appropriate.
Thank you. That's very, very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. Kansh Sharma, you've got a question?
Yes. A lot's been said about alcohol, but the only thing that came to my mind was about vaping and young children and young adults. I don't know, is there anything that can be done there in terms of the massive problem that exists and the addiction that develops with children as they get older, if they become addicted to smoking and so on? Thank you.
So I can probably cover that. So Councillor Sharma, you might not have been here at the previous committee meetings, but last year one of our teams, Trading Standards team, who kind of deals with the issue of vaping, etc., has submitted a bid to the public health team, and we were successful, and we were granted some money specifically for a project about around vaping, and we're working kind of with charitable organizations. That project is kickstarting now, and we are actually presenting to the Wellbeing Board, I think about October, November time regarding that project. So I imagine that we could just provide you with an update about February time with how that project is progressing, but it's very much something that we are already doing, and we are proactively taking action to kind of deal with that issue, because as you highlighted, it's quite significant.
Thank you. Councillor Mahmood.
Thank you.
Tariq, switch on your mic.
Yeah,
please.
thank you, Chair. Sorry for being late. I just wanted to have a quick clarification, Joe or Isabella. How often do we need to renew our policies? Is it our statutory responsibility to renew our policy? And if it is, so how often do we need to do that?
Every 5 years, Tariq, every 5 years. It's been 5 years, and now it was renewed in 2020, and now it will be done in 2025. So we are preparing for 2025.
And Chair, with your permission, as a new member, I am clarifying my concept. So I just wanted to know that policy will include the special areas as well. It will cover the new or designated special policy areas.
The special policy areas are already there, so the policy will there'll be evidence gathered, and depending on the evidence, it will be decided whether they should remain, they should be modified, or they should be extended. So it will all depend on the evidence once it's gathered and once it's included in the policy. Isabella, have I answered correctly?
You have absolutely. I think the only thing I would add is that the 5 years is the minimum statutory, so the maximum statutory period of time. We can review it earlier. Obviously, it comes with additional resources and etc. Yeah. But it's not that it's not that in 2 years, if the committee feels that there's aspects of it that we could be improving, etc., that we could be making changes.
And we will be the part of the draft arrangement, yeah.
Yes, that policy is very much written for for our applicants and for the committee and us, so everyone needs to be part of it.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I think there's no more questions. Isabella, have you covered enforcement? You've covered enforcement.
Yes, yeah, no, we've talked about the kind of like night visits and our massage and special treatment premises. Yes.
So you have covered both of your items, 7 and 8.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you for that. Now the next item we've got is the work program, committee work program, and that everyone has received the copy in the agenda. Is there any comment or question anyone has on the work program? It's we have 4 meetings in a year. This is the first meeting. I think it was delayed due to the general elections. We would have got it in June usually, but we are in July due to the general elections. There'll be other meetings in October, and then in February and April, I think. But that is all in work program. Praveen, you've got a question?
Chair, not a question, but maybe a suggestion with the work program in benefit for existing members and new members, that to identify within the program there are other activities that the members may be able to contribute in. So on enforcement measures, when we actually go out and do enforcement, so new members can be advised that they can join the Metropolitan Police and the enforcement team. So maybe this is just a suggestion that maybe within the work program we can also encourage our members and the committee members that they can contribute and assist our officers and the police. So how you put that in the program or how you suggest that, I'll leave to you, sir. Thank you.
Isabella, are members allowed to accompany the officers?
Yeah, they are. So if anyone is interested in kind of assisting us and going out, normally those visits are late at night, just a little bit of a warning. But, you know, we can just always take out counsel, and we always encourage it because we always say if you see what we're seeing, then it kind of gives you a better background and understanding to some of the things. So I'll be more than happy to be contacted by anyone on the panel and arrange some shadowed inspections kind of going out with our inspectors.
Sorry, Councillor Ahmed.
Yeah, yes.
Sorry, I just wanted to add, just also councillors be aware that, you know, in terms of we may avoid visits to their ward or visits to premises that they might, you know, if they visited a premises with officers and we've subsequently taken enforcement action or reviewing a licence, they wouldn't be able to sit on committee or be involved with that and that kind of thing. So that's just worth bearing in mind. But yeah, we welcome people coming out in the evening to see what we see.
Okay. Whether we can include that in the work program or not, I'll leave that to Markesha and Zaina to see if they want to include that. Otherwise, all members are welcome and they can make arrangement with the officers and visit that. Amarjit?
Chair, may I just come in? Would that be through the chair or would we do it direct? Just clarification. Sorry.
Yes,
Sorry
that can be done. That can be done through either the chair or the democratic services. Markesha can arrange liaise with the officers, or you can come through me. Yeah, Amarjit. Councillor Jammu, you are on mute.
Can you hear me now, sir?
Yes.
Thank you very much. I do apologise for that. Just a query, actually, and I'm sure Joe will be able to answer this. If officers go out on certain spot visits or what have you, and later on they come on as a complaint or what have you, and we have to sit on the panel, should the person who actually went out on that particular visit be sitting on the panel? I think we should, we could do with a bit of clarification there. Thank you.
That is what Amarjit, that's what Joe said, that you need to bear in mind that if you are visiting a premises and later there's enforcement and you need to sit on that panel, that can be a conflicting thing. So you need to bear that in mind. Is that your question?
Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, Councillor Dheer.
Yeah, Chair, I think I want to echo what Councillor Jammu has said, that if you go on those visits with officers, you are compromising yourself as a member of the committee and the panel. I think, Chair, you would agree, and I hear what Joe has said, that there's a well-established protocol in terms of members' responsibilities and the operational responsibility and duty of the officer. There's a clear demarcation. I think members should not, in my view, venture into that area, which is really the operational privilege of the officers. Once you go there, then you compromise yourself and you'll be open to challenge if you sit on panels in those wards. And I think I would really not support this proposition of members going on those visits with officers. I think it really, it's not the done thing. It's against the traditional demarcation of the members' responsibilities and the officers' responsibilities. Thank you, Chair.
That is, Ranjit, that is my personal view, that we should stay away from officers' job. And when it comes to hearing, that is when, most of the time when I'm sitting on a hearing, I try to visit the premises and try to look at the operation and look at the location and how it works. But I wouldn't go personally with the officers when they are doing their official duties. But having said that, that is what I left to the officers, and obviously legal can advise on this if that is something that members should be encouraged to do or not. So that's my view, but then there's a legality. So Alison, you want to come in and comment on that, or no need?
Yeah, I think Joe summed it up when he said that obviously there might be a conflict going forward. So I don't think there's any problem in principle with if particular members were interested in accompanying officers, but there are potential conflicts there, so that does need to be borne in mind.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Shaw. Gareth?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Sorry, my microphone's taking a little bit of time to come on. I was just going to say, and I think Alison covered a little bit of it, that I believe Joe and Isabella were actually sort of quite clear that they would encourage some members to go and gain the experience of seeing just what the officers actually see. Now, I'm sure neither of them would recommend, the entire committee to go to one visit, because that would preclude everybody from actually sort of taking part in a licensing panel. But a member going along, and I would suggest it's something that's only done sort of one at a time, or two members. But also Councillor Dia is quite correct, and I believe that we do need to remember, when you do join, or if you choose to join those activities and raids that are going on in enforcement action, that we are there as councillors, and we are there to observe, and we should definitely not get in the way of the professional officers or the police officers or border force agency if they happen to be present as well. We are there to observe and gain experience and knowledge through those observations on the ground. So that's something that people should consider.
Thank you. Joe, you want to come back?
Yeah, just to say, we would operationally, obviously, our officers are authorised and warranted to enter premises and so on, and we're very careful with how we exercise those powers. So all it would involve, as Councillor Shaw said, we've never really gone out with more than one councillor at a time. They would join a couple of officers, and then we would enter the premises, say why we're there, and we would introduce who the councillor is and say they're a member of licensing committee, they're here to see how this kind of thing works, and then we would go through our normal questions. My point was really just, it's worth bearing in mind probably not to choose a premises that's within your community as a ward councillor, and also potentially if you have an interest in that, like as in, I don't know, you've dealt with a previous application or something, it would be wise to just avoid that, to avoid any possible perception of issues. But we have 1,300 odd licensed premises, and there are plenty to choose from because we have a very active enforcement team. I think Councillor Ahmed, you will know better, but I think it's just the value of seeing what the officers actually deliver. So when you see you know, licensing officer Smith's witness statement and explains what they did and what time, then committee members can see what is actually behind that, because sometimes it's quite dry. It's good to see actually what that means when we uncover illicit tobacco or alcohol or witness breach of license conditions. But yeah, we're happy to, if we receive inquiries through you, Councillor Ahmed, then we're happy to deal with them.
Apology. When you said Councillor Ahmed, you know, after that my connection went off. So if you can repeat that, please.
Oh, just to say, I think there might be value in committee members seeing, you know, seeing what the real life version is of just the dry statements they might read prior to hearing an application. That's it.
Thank you. Praveen, there has been a good discussion on that, and I think Joe has been very clear on that. There's no restriction on that. They are encouraging members to visit one by one. Is there anything really you want to say, or that was something we have?
No, Chair, that's fine. And what I want to say, wanted to add, is that I respect what Councillor Deer has said, and I hear what Joe and Councillor Garrett has said. I think there's a lot of there's a lot of advantage to be gained in actually visiting to understand how the officers operate. So that's it. Thank you, Sujay. Thank you.
That's fine. Fajuma, you came up and gone again.
Thank you, Chair. No, it's already been mentioned. It's just that I wanted to say, I mean, this is my second year and I see value actually doing one visit. You know, there's more value than just reading the paper words rather than actually seeing in the scene of where it happens. But I take on board of what everybody said in terms of being careful and having that balance and making sure that, you know, the officers have the autonomy of delivering their duties. But I do think there's a value for those like me who kind of newish to actually see it in person. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, the bottom line is there's no restriction on that as long as you know what you are doing. Now we have come toward the end of the meeting. There's no more item on the agenda, but just I want to add something. The morning meetings, I don't know when it happened and how it's been happening. They've been at 10:30 pre-meeting and 11 o'clock meeting, but I've been requested by officers that it does not give them time to join the second meeting, which starts at 1:30, 2 o'clock. So I've been requested to bring those meeting at 9:30 pre-meeting and 10 o'clock start. That's how we used to do before, but it did change. Any member have any comment on that? So I'm suggesting that we will have meetings at 9:30 pre-meeting and 10 o'clock meeting. Yes, Praveen? Praveen, Mike?
Okay, it's a allegedly hand, so no comments on that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ranjit? Councillor Dheer? Your microphone, Councillor Dheer.
Sorry, apologies, Chair. I was saying that I have no problem with the earlier start, but could I raise this issue that when are we going to have in-person meetings as we used to? I mean, COVID is long past us, and I think all institutions are trying to get back to, normal sort of, run of things, meetings and stuff. And are there any plans to return to in-person meetings, Chair?
So we did discuss when I had my first meeting with the officers and democratic officers, we did discuss that. The conclusion was that because we are not kind of making any decision in this meeting, it's a kind of informative kind of meetings. So there was no legal requirement to meet in person, and I suggested that we will continue as we used to do previously last year. And then if needed during the year or later, we can always change. But we agreed that at the moment, it gives people, members, flexibility to join, and we can have more attendance from the members. That was the reason, and we decided to continue. But we can always revert it later and at any time.
Yeah, Chair, thanks for that. But similarly, I think, are there any plans to return to in-person panel hearings?
Again, the same thing. There is a flexibility. There's a lot of flexibility. Many members feel very comfortable to attend the meetings virtually. But if the committee wants to attend physically, I have no problem. But it's the flexibility that you have. You can attend the hearing from anywhere. The applicant and their legal advisor and our democratic officers, they can all attend easily. It's just the convenience.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Mahmood, you've got a question?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just wanted a clarification, Chair. I have no problem with your suggestion. It's a good suggestion to start meeting early, but just wanted to clarify, what about the meeting which is happening tomorrow morning? Would that your suggestion will apply there as well, or would that be from the next time?
My suggestion will apply from September.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks for it's a bit release for me. Yeah.
Yeah, all the meetings scheduled until end of August will continue as it is, and that will change from September. And if you look at my diary invitation that I've sent now, that is starting from 9:30.
So we should follow your diary invitation time. Is okay. Thank you.
Councillor Jammu.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to say I agree with the suggestion of an earlier start. And I know, often there's been morning and afternoon meetings, and you just don't have time for a break in between. So happy to support that. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, well, thank you for that. So we will, from September, we will start this new timing. Markesha, you can note that and let Cornelia know that.
Yes, Zaina will note that.
Yeah,
Thank you.
we'll.
Okay, with that, we've come to the end of the meeting, and the next meeting is on 9th of October. Thank you very much, everyone, for your contribution and patience, and see you at the next meeting.
Thank you,
Chair.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you very much.
Good evening,
Great
everyone.
meeting. Thank you, Chair.